Hey guys, this is KSP's Tape, and today you join me for episode 34 of KSP Road to Exploration. And in this rather large fairing atop a Pulsar 2, there is a very important payload. A payload bound for further than we have ever gone into the solar system. This is a probe bound for Jool. Yes, it's pretty massive, because there's a transfer stage in there, but it's quite light, so it's on a small vehicle, so it looks kind of janky. But yes, it is a very high-tech probe on a very cheap vehicle, because we're, well, pretty poor. But yes, we ditched the first stage, and that will land hopefully at some point, and then we'll push ourselves on into orbit, and then we will plan our maneuver to Jool. But it's going to be kind of complicated, but you'll see that in a minute. But yes, there goes the fairing, and you can see the probe, and you can see as it starts to shake. I think the fairing makes it more stable, but it has that weird, annoying SAS glitch where everything is terrible. But yes, now I'm just figuring out how much Delta V I can use to push myself a little further so that I have more time to land the first stage. So I'm deploying solar panels and communications array so I don't lose this. Anyway, so we switched to this, and there we are, just cutting to seeing it land, and there's the, well, that was the first stage landing, and here we are just back in orbit with the annoying SAS, which is just shaking us around like crazy, but that's mostly because I didn't use enough struts, but I didn't want to put any additional struts on here, because any additional mass is less Delta V, and we want all the Delta V we can get. Although we do have just a huge amount of excess Delta V on this, which is lucky, because the exit burn's going to be slightly inefficient because it's going to take ages because it's using one tiny nuclear engine. That's from the RLA Stockerli pack, the smaller nuclear engine. But yes, that little bit of scientific equipment on there, that is a gravioli detector. We have unlocked the final bit of scientific equipment. So this will be a fully fleshed out probe going to Jool, and it will grab us all of the science in the Jool. I was going to say in the world, but anyway, so while we're waiting for the transfer, we need to bring the stage back, and here it is roaring through the atmosphere. Surrounded by plasma and fire, and here it is landing gently on the ocean just off the main KSC continent. But anyway, so I'm going to do this burn in stages. I've decided to, here we are just lining up the engine for the first time, and I've decided to do a 400 meters a second burn to start, push us into a slightly higher orbit. Then I'm going to do more of them until we get to a point where I can do an escape burn. Although there is a slight drawback that I can't do that too much, because I only have 7 days to really get this right. And obviously you can get into an orbit that's like 20 days. So there is that limit, but those orbits usually have a small amount of Delta V between them. So yeah, we're just going to do these kind of burns now. I actually slightly overestimated how much this could do, and it turns out it can't really get the 400 meters per second of Delta V in the right amount of time, because obviously if I burn for too long, it skew-ifs the orbit, and that means I'll miss Jool, basically. So yeah, I'm going to start doing it in 300 meters per second. Oh yeah, it looks like I'm being a bit ambitious there, but 300 meters per second there. And I won't show you all of the burns, so here we are just kind of midway through the next one, just doing our thing. And yeah, here we are just getting right up there, and we actually did fall short a little bit again, but we're doing well. That's a couple of burns down. These all take like 4 or 5 minutes. Oh no, it's more like 8 minutes. That's the problem. Oh no, it's more like 4 minutes. Yeah. Okay, and here we are just completing the next burn to put us in a much more elliptical thing. I just thought I'd show you pretty much the end of all these stages so you get an idea, but don't have to see the long, arduous journey of doing all of the burns. And yes, here we are just getting ready to do our escape burn. I've actually set this up for a full burn all the way to Jool, but I'm not gonna. I won't actually be able to do that. So yeah. There we were, just firing up our engine, and here we are just performing our burn, and you can see we have reached escape velocity, which is rather nice. And I'm going to do the rest of the burn out round near the sun, which is actually a hell of a lot less efficient, but because I've burned off so much Delta V, and you can see I've burned off a huge amount of Delta V now, like at least 700 meters per second, it's not going to cost me too much Delta V to do the rest of the burn outside of Kerbal Sphere of Influence. I think it's probably... Yeah, we're doing pretty well. There's 400 meters per second. I've forgotten how many jump cuts there were in here because it took so long. But yes, so we did burn off like 800 meters per second of Delta V and had 400 left. The burn I've just planned here outside of the sun, that's 700 meters per second. That's what we have here. This is the planned maneuver that we're going to do out in solar orbits, so we have more time and things. But that's fine, because you can see there's a 50 meter per second plane change, and capture will only cost us 260 meters per second, and it'll actually be less because I can actually get a lathe assist, which will bring it down to about 150 meters per second. But yeah, you can see with the big antenna deployed there, we're ready to go. It's massive. It folds out. So did I show that being folded out? I think I did. If not, there is another one later. But yes, so we are getting ready to do our burn. We have communications with our giant antenna, which will communicate all the way to Jool, and even Elu, which we probably won't be heading to Elu soon, but there's another transfer window coming up in about a year, so that'll be fine. But yes, this probe is comprised of an orbiter, as you can see at the top, with a little bit of RCS, a bit of a monopropellant engine, and below that's a very compact little probe that will be entering the atmosphere of Lathe. It has a heat shield on it, and above all of that is just a bunch of scientific equipment and a couple of parachutes, and that will be hopefully landing on the oceans of Lathe, because that'll be a nice soft landing. And yeah, it's very compact. That took me quite a long time to get right. And the orbiter will have to remain in an orbit of Lathe to do the long-range communications. But that'll be fine. We're gonna have a lot of excess delta V on the transfer stage. You can see we still have about 2,500 meters per second at the end of this on the transfer stage, and we're only going to need like maybe 200 of that, so we're going to be able to explore all of the moons and then finish off on Lathe. And the nice thing about Jool is there's so many moons you can just use gravity assists instead of fuel, so that's great. But yeah, you can see there's the berm puts us just in a polar trajectory of Jool, but we'll fix that later. But yes, we're going to deactivate this antenna because the big one takes up so much electric charge. But yes, I will have to deploy a new ground communications device this episode, but it'll be fine for now because it'll remain in range of the old one, but we are going to need a bigger one. But yes, there we are, just making our quick maneuver, and that's 51 meters per second. And if we get a Lathe encounter and get it right, we can actually bring our capture burn down. Yeah, you can see that's put us in a slightly more distorted orbit. And if I decide to do the capture burn anytime soon, what am I doing? What am I mousing around at? What am I looking at? Just making sure it wasn't in the atmosphere, I think. But yes, basically, if I do the capture burn, it'll be about 100 meters per second, but apparently I'm not doing that right now. Okay, but yes, I thought that was in the footage, I'm sorry. But yes, anyway, now that we are bound for Jool with that very long, arduous burns and all of that, which I hope wasn't too hard to watch with all the jump cuts, we have our Pulsar 4D. Yes, it is like the Pulsar 4M, except it gives you the... No, it's a Duna capable rocket. And yes, we are sending a probe to Duna, a much heavier probe than we sent to Jool, so much so that we need the Pulsar 4D. And it actually has a lander that will go in and land on Duna. But not only that, it'll be able to jump on Duna, because I have a bunch of scientific reports I need to do. I think temperature scans I need to do on Duna, so, and they're slightly higher in the air, so I will need to be jumping around. And it also has the equipment to complete a bunch of... the orbiter has enough equipment to complete a bunch of things, a bunch of missions, such as... What are they? Oh, yeah, they're putting the satellites in orbit, mostly. But yes, anyway, here we are just landing the rocket, and I'm going to try something new, because I don't have a ton of time to land this, because the Duna probe is on its way to its apoky. I'm going to try and land this as fast as possible, and I actually do a pretty crazy maneuver here. I'm not going to pull the parachute till about 5 kilometers up. I'm going to slow down very gently, just so the parachute's primed just in time. I'm going to pull the parachutes, and then we're not going to fire our engines until the last minute, where we're just going to throttle them up to max, slow down, and touch down on the ocean. Very fast, especially in 4 times time accelerate. But I have got one later that is in 1 time speed that you'll be able to see of my super new high-speed maneuver. But anyway, we are going to be in a bit of a skew-if orbit. As you can see, we are actually still gently inside the atmosphere and very high up on the other side. But we'll fix that. We have a little bit of fuel on the second stage, and we have a little excess delta V on the... third stage, the Duna transfer stage. So yes, hopefully that will be good. We're deploying all of our, some communications equipment. What I did realize, I've actually forgotten gravioli detectors on this spacecraft, which really sucks, because it'd be really nice to have some gravioli detectors, because those provide a lot of science. But, you know, I guess I forgot. What I should have done is... There's nothing I could have done. I'm out of money. The next launch has to be what it is, basically. But yes, we're going to get rid of the second stage, and that'll deorbit itself. Well, we'll deorbit it. It doesn't do it just by itself. It's not sentient yet, which is probably good, because it's effectively a missile. And then we're going to use the third stage on this just to get ourselves out of the atmosphere, so we don't slowly decay and never get to Duna, because it was a very, very expensive spacecraft. But yes, there we are, just slightly out of the atmosphere. But when we bring back this stage... What? Oh, I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, this just lands normally. There's another one that lands so perfectly close to the KSC, it's ridiculous. This one just lands fine. What? I don't know what that noise was. But yeah, we recover that, and you can see that we... Oh, God, these load times. Really should have cut this out. I'm not very good at my job. We have about 100 grand left, which is enough for one more mission, pretty much. So that better make us some money, yeah? But yeah, we do get like almost 10 grand back for that stage, so that's good. That's why we reuse rockets. But yes, we have a maneuver set up to go to Duna. And this will just be in one sleek burn. Yes, none of that. How many burns did I do for that last one? I think it was 4 at Kerbin, and then another one outside of Kerbin Sphere of Influence. That was tricky. But yes, this has a very powerful engine, and we'll be able to push us onto Duna quite quickly. And yeah, nuclear engines are also kind of expensive, I think. But I only used one small one in the last one, so you know. But anyway, yes, we fire up the engine, and the Delta V just falls away as we have our properly powerful spacecraft, and that's nice. Yeah, you can see the landers just below there, and then the orbiter. You really do need orbiters if you're sending landers, because you need to be able to communicate. Although I do already have an orbiter at Duna, but also you don't want to take a massive antenna down into the atmosphere with you, because it might break off, and also you'll need more landing equipment, and it's just very foolish. So it's better to have orbiters, and we'll have 2 at Duna now. 2 at Duna now. Sorry, I sound all allergy-y. That's because I am, because summer is terrible and filled with hay fever pollen, I guess. Anyway, we're using the MechJeb maneuver node editor just to fine-tune our orbit so that fine-tune our encounter. I think that's the wrong way around. Is it? Yeah, no, maybe, yeah. Well, we'll figure that out later. I should probably put a note somewhere to fix that. I don't want to be going the wrong way. Do I? Does it matter? It'll be slightly more costly. But anyway, basically, we have the Delta V to get into orbit, just about. And then the probe will also go on to Ike to do a little more science there, and it also will complete a couple of missions to put satellites in specific orbits, which will pay quite nicely. So, yeah, when this gets to Duna, it will pay off hugely, because it was quite expensive. Although reusable rockets are nice, but the third stage obviously isn't reusable. And I'm just making sure the communications equipment is working. It will have to switch over to the Grandcom 3, which is the one I'll be launching in a bit, which is a far more advanced one. Anyway, so, as I said, we have pretty much enough money for one more mission. Actually, I could probably launch 2. No, I couldn't. Yeah, anyway, one more mission, but obviously this is a reusable rocket, so we will get most of the money back, but you have to have the capital to launch the rocket in the first place. But yes, this is a fueling mission, so this will be flying up to the station, depositing some fuel on the station, and then the Red Origin spacecraft, the Red Origin 3, which will be going to Minmus to rescue a Kerbal and plant a flag, which will get us some nice money, gives a bit of a cash buffer, since we are a little low on money right now after we bought that Science Center last episode. Oh god. But we did need it, because now we have a probe heading for Jool, and what is that? That was a really loud thing. Someone should fix that cut. That sounds terrible. Anyway, so yes, we're going to get this onto its trajectory, and then we're going to do another very high-speed landing maneuver, just because it's good to practice these. And I'm not going to show you the whole falling, but I'm going to show you the actual landing bit. Here we are, just about to deploy the parachutes. Holy hell, not till 4 kilometers? 3 and a bit kilometers, okay, I didn't realize it was that much. But yes, you can see we're just kind of coming in really hot, putting the engines on a little bit. But we're going to just let the parachutes deploy at 500 meters, which will give us about 200 meters of margin for us to slow down with a full throttle, and there we go! And it's, yeah, within 100 meters where we stop. That's what you want. It gives you a few extra seconds, so it means you can launch things into lower orbits more easily, because you don't have a ton of time. And you know, I could get a mod to do this, but I feel at this point it would be cheating. This is like my biggest achievement ever. Reusing rockets without the help of mods. Although I guess some mods, but none of them help. Actually, most of them hinder, like the communications, the remote tech. Anyway, so yes, we push into orbit, but run out of fuel because these rockets are just not quite big enough to launch these payloads. They always fall a tiny bit short, but yes, we do get into orbit. And yeah, we only used a little bit of our payload fuel, and that's fine. We have excess fuel on the station. Yeah, so I'm just going to bounce a little bit of that so I can deorbit that stage, because it's very expensive. And yeah, after a little bit of planning, we do a little burn, and in about 4 hours we are going to encounter the station relatively closely. But yes, here is the landing of the second stage I was talking about. Look how freaking close that is! Sometimes it happens. Yeah, deploy the chutes, and land just off the coast, which will get us probably more than, like, 95% of our money back, which will be great, because we need money. But yes, that lands, and here we are, just getting into the station. It worked pretty well. I just did this really slowly, because as you know, for some reason with fueling spacecraft, I always seem to have this problem where I just kind of maneuver in like a moron. But yeah, I spent a little while, and here we are just maneuvering in. I actually kind of encountered it by accident. I was going to encounter it way further down in my orbit, but then I looked in the normal view, and I was like, holy crap, there it is, and just slowed down. But yeah, here we are, just getting into the station. Although the RCS has, the reaction control system has become kind of unbalanced now as I've moved fuel around, so docking is going to be really hard. And you know, when it's slightly unbalanced, it's kind of a problem. I know I'm setting my alarm to make myself remember to do a launch in, I think, 14 days from now, because I do them every 15 days. That's one of my drawbacks, and it also moves time forward more quickly. So yeah, I quite like doing that. Makes it a little more realistic as well, and it adds a little bit of complexity, because if there's someone stuck in space, it's like, oh, I can't just launch and get him. Nope, if he doesn't have the life support, he's gonna die. Yeah, I like mods that make it harder, and I imply my own rules. Maybe I should get Kerbal build time, but I don't want to have him too infrequently, because I have a lot of things I need to do, you know? Like, I have a lot of these kind of missions. And yeah, after figuring out which orientation this needed to be in, I try to dock, and I get really close, but somehow fuck it up. I don't know why. I just kind of drift past and I'm not close enough. And you can see it's tipping slightly and wobbling around. I'm just having a lot of problems controlling this, but eventually I do get it close enough to the docking port that it does indeed dock after swaying a lot. And oh, this camera movement is, it probably makes you feel kind of sick. If you don't want to watch this bit, don't. I kind of feel ill now. Yeah. I was like flashing lights. Anyway, so we do eventually dock. Yeah, that took a while. But anyway, so we've got the fuel into the space station and into the Red Origin spacecraft. We have Valentina loaded into the cockpit, and she's going to go rescue a Kerbal from orbit of Minmus. Who keeps stranding their Kerbals? Because my crew is comprised of the big four you get at the start and rescued Kerbals. I'm just going to have a little bit of water. I'm very stressed out by that docking scene. Yeah. I don't know who keeps stranding Kerbals, but it means I don't have to pay for them, so I'm not going to be too worried about it. And yeah, then we're going to go plant a flag on Minmus. Also get some science is still a big thing. Because we have the new science center, we want to be getting lots of science, but obviously money right now is kind of a big factor, so yeah, we're going to get quite a lot of money for this. I think it's about 200 grand, because we're going to plant the flag and rescue the Kerbal. So that's all good. We won't be getting the Kerbal till next episode, though, because we need to send up a spacecraft to come and save them, which makes it slightly less profitable, but, I mean, spacecraft are pretty cheap when they're reusable, so, I mean, if I'm reusing everything, I usually just take away 10%, because I usually get a little over 90% back for the vehicle, and then fuel cost, pretty much. But yeah, no, it has made it much easier making reusable rockets. I don't know how you would play hard mode without reusable rockets. I don't think it would be possible. Like, I mean, it was hard enough to get that 3 million to buy that new space center. I don't know how you'd do that if... none of that. I mean, how would you even? And maybe you just take on a few very lucrative missions. But anyway, I'm pretty glad that I've done all of this. I've got some pretty great infrastructure now. All my stations, my reusable vehicles. I mean, this spacecraft has done so many landing missions. It's insane. And the fueling spacecraft is much cheaper than a lander. But yes, we're just going to get our encounter with this Kerbal and rescue them. And I think we do actually have enough life support to bring them back as well. Because coming here we only had one Kerbal, and going back we'll have two. So yeah, I do need to attach that other life support can. Apparently I accidentally sent it home last episode. I don't think this spacecraft is ever going to get a new life support can, which kind of sucks. But yeah, here we are just making our encounter. 200 meters, not bad. And then we'll move in, rescue the Kerbal, put them in our spacecraft, and make them come down to the surface with us, and kind of hope that they're a scientist. Well, we have a ton of scientists, because if they're a scientist, they can reset the experiments. We can do double the science, but she is actually a pirate. Doreen, a pirate? Yeah, she's a pirate. No, she's a pilot. So yes, we'll put her in our spacecraft, and we'll have two pilots in there, so if Valentina gets bored, Doreen can take over. Although maybe not, because we found her in very little spacecraft. I think she probably destroyed the rest. Also, it was part of, like, a land base, that module, so, like, how do you screw it up that badly? I don't trust Doreen. I don't want to employ her. Anyway, so we're going to do ourselves a deorbit and land on the Great Flats. We did warp time ahead a little bit to get here. If you didn't notice that mad jump cut, if you're just so jump cutted out by now. But yeah, we fly over our base, which I keep forgetting we have. I pretty much just put that down for the money, but at some point we'll use it, maybe. Put a science lab on the surface will be good. But I need a bunch more stuff. We're going to focus on the moon base mostly. That's just a kind of the start of the outpost, really. And maybe we'll do something with it later, but I'm not entirely sure. But yes, so we're just going to land on the Greater Flats, which I found... well, I kind of figured that they were the Greater Flats because they were the biggest, and I haven't put a flag on them yet. But yeah, I don't have a ton of biomes left for Minmus, which is, yeah... I have loads left for the moon, though. There's so many biomes on the moon, it's ridiculous. But yeah, we're going to grab all of the science, all of the things. I also need to bring up a gravioli detector for this, so that we can get more science. Yes, and then I think that's all of the scientific equipment, really. So we grab all the reports, plant a flag, just put Greater Flats landing in it, because then I'll remember that this is the Greater Flats. So we get our 100 grand for planting the flag, which is nice, and we also obviously got an advance a while ago. So they pay a lot of money for planting flags places. I don't really know why you'd pay for that. If it's a government, maybe. But anyway, yes, so we're just going to go and meet our spacecraft. This is all at 4 times time accelerate, because it's a very long episode, but I didn't want to just have launching interplanetary probes in it, because that's kind of boring. But yeah, I always do love Minmus. It's all canyonous and awesome. But yeah, hopefully by the time we have our next Duna window, we will be sending Kerbals. I think the next Duna window is quite a while away because we move at pretty low relative velocities. Like, I was surprised to find that Jool and Elu windows come more frequently than Duna windows, but of course they do because we have a very high relative velocity because they're moving very slowly, we're moving very fast. But Duna and us, we're obviously moving kind of at relatively similar speeds, so we only get into phase angles occasionally. So we actually have a Eve window coming up more sooner than then, so maybe I'd send a mission to Eve, but they wouldn't be able to land except on Gilly, so yeah, although I do have an idea for a Eve escape vehicle, Eve ascent vehicle in the works, so hopefully that might do something, might be useful. Well, it might work, is what I'm saying. Obviously, it would be useful, but I want to send a small test vehicle of that first. And also, it would be helpful to find out where the highest point on Eve is. I know there's a mountain that's about 7 kilometers high, which would make it infinitely easier to do this. But maybe I'll just do some testing with hyper edits. But I don't really want to do that because it feels kind of like cheating. Oh yes, there we are on our burn home. I think what I'm going to do is send a small test model with a similar amount of delta V and thrust to weight ratio. But yes, anyway, there we go. We are on our way home, but that will take a while. And the final thing we need to do in this episode is deploy our new ground comm. I deploy these because they seem to be more reliable than mission control for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why, but they just are. And also, I think mission control doesn't have as long a range as this. So this is actually definitely very important. So yes, this is actually using rover wheels. I did just unlock them, well, recently. And yeah, they're good. This is also a bit of a test because I want to be sending my rover to the moon quite soon. And it's going to be quite a complex rover. And ideally, I'd like the bigger wheels, but I don't have them yet. So I'm going to do some testing to see if I can do the rover I want to do with these wheels, because obviously the moon's quite bumpy and the wheels are kind of screwy. They are better, though. I mean, people have been saying they're crap, but they are much better than they used to be, I've noticed. Old wheels, you turn at all, you tip. These kind of drift a bit, and the friction, I know, is all screwed up, but I actually think these are much better. Yeah, they're definitely much better than they were. I mean, these are way better than the wheels of the days of old, where you turned slightly left and you died. But yes, we'll be replacing that little jet-powered rover over there, and with its little antenna for this one, with its giant antenna, we'll activate this. And it is gigantic. You've seen that on the probe before, but still, it's massive. And yeah, you can see it next to the other one. We deploy our solar panels, which are just enough to power this, but power doesn't really work properly when you're not actually on the spacecraft, so you don't even really need solar panels for these things. But obviously, because I launch right next to them, it's probably good to have them. So yes, that is all good, and that will communicate to our spacecraft. And I just need to switch over all the targets, then recover the other one. I get about 9 grand back for the other one, and this one cost like 20 grand, so I'm down a little money, but it's fine. I have about 170 grand right now after this, so we're pretty good. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been episode 34 of KSB Road to Exploration. I will see you next time.